Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to read a story by one of my dear friends, John Lavin. It's a compilation of, the different short stories that I'll be reading in this series are a compilation of teaching stories, of stories from the classroom, things that he has experienced through the classroom, and we can apply them to our experience being teachers. We all have experiences of helping children open up for the first time maybe, or open up in a different way, or learning how to express themselves using a different method, a different means, maybe a different medium in artwork, perhaps a different medium in writing, or perhaps even with speaking a different language. So we all have these stories that we keep inside of ourselves every time that we teach. It's really nice to be able to read aloud a story about this communication between student and teacher from a teacher decades after he had this one particular experience, which we're about to read. So I'm really excited about it. Hope you enjoy it as well. So let's begin with Chorus 2. The Art of Improvisation, a letter. Dear Sunny Stitt, so much of who you are made me who I am. I was 12. My dad was on drums that night, switching off with the great Cozy Cole on a set that they had quickly assembled for the gig. Cozy was meticulous about the tuning of the drums' heads, so he was fussing. My dad was supposed to switch to trombone for certain ballads. Your saxophone protege, Eric Kloss, held the edge of the stage, sporting wrap-around sunglasses in the dark of the bar, smoking a pipe at intervals and profiling a tweed blazer and silk tie. He looked cool even in that humid summer's urban heat. Eric was 16. He cut a sage figure, inward-looking, while blowing subtle, whispering arpeggios to adjust his horn's tone and pitch. He was intent. Sometimes Eric was okay with me hanging around talking. Not today. He was busy. I didn't really know where to stand or what to do. My dad was preoccupied with setting up, so even more than usual, he had been completely ignoring me all day. Then from behind me, I felt your gentle hand on my shoulder. You didn't introduce yourself. You just said, "John, you must be hungry." This surprised and confused me a little because even though you'd been the featured player at lots of my dad's jam sessions and concerts, I had never met you. I didn't think you even knew that I existed. At your very kind bidding, Pat, the bartender, produced 2 hamburgers and sodas. You did everything like it was some kind of very serious ritual. First, we talked with Pat for about 5 minutes on the question of hamburgers, ways of cooking them and doctoring them, with the cheese and hot peppers from Mexico or Tabasco sauce. When the hamburgers arrived, we brought them to life before we killed them, as you suggested, using relish and ketchup and mustard and mayonnaise. The whole works on your cheeseburger and then on mine. What made me laugh so much at everything we were doing was that, unlike everybody else in this picture, you weren't on edge or nervous. You basically wanted to have fun, and you had invited me to that party. You had long departed the discussion about relative minor keys and diminished 13th this or that. I forget so much of our conversation that day, but eventually you asked me, "So, young brother, do you have a girlfriend?" I felt overwhelmed by the question and decided to keep it simple with the hope that we could just change the subject back to something that didn't embarrass me, like food or baseball. I just said, "No, sir." You leaned back in disbelief and said, "Well, John, you have to start sending out some letters." There was a pause, and you said, "Pat, can you get John and me another Coke? We have to get back to work." And, as we sipped on the sodas, you probed, "You're on drums for just one number in the rehearsal, but tonight you'll play the conga, okay?" Being included like this was new. How did you know I played the drums? How did you know that I longed to play the conga? How did you know that I liked to eat and laugh? How did you know about the letters I wanted to write, and the people I wanted to know, and the life I wanted to live? As we walked back to the stage, I felt the energy. I felt the love. You said, "We're going to play Tintindeo." First, the title's Spanish for "I understand you." It comes from the words "te entiendo." You speak some Spanish, don't you? You knew that too. You started sounding like a college professor, explaining at the edge of the stage. "So, we're sending messages back and forth, you and I and the rest of the band. We're all showing we hear and get the messages from the other players. You need to show with your playing that you understand me the way I understand you. You've got to listen to understand what I'm doing and then send me back something. You got to send me a letter to get one back. Remember that." Then you told Cozy Cole that I was going to lead off on drums in the rehearsal. Cozy looked perplexed. You said, looking at me in the eye, "You'll know what to do." And then you added, "John, follow along." And without anyone counting off the beat or agreeing on the key, you just started blowing bossa melody of Tintindeo. I got myself behind the drum set and started by listening and eventually kicked the samba beat on the bass drum, and my hands followed with a rock-inspired inflection. You turned to me and laughed and interjected the name of the song, announcing to the band, "Tintindeo!" You gave me a look that said, "I understand you," and in that moment gave the horn a jolt that cried out in meter and dissonant plea, half blues, half flamenco flourish. I punctuated it with a James Brown reference, making the beat fit both rhythms. You smiled back. We went on like that. When we finished, Cozy Cole seemed alarmed. My father asked me angrily, "What are you trying to pull, kid?" I didn't know what to say. You proclaimed, "John, tell Pat we want 2 more sodas," and smiled and nodded. "Tintindeo!" You had this way of using something real definite like sodas or hamburgers to show what friends do. I liked that. I got the sodas, but you didn't drink yours. You became busy with the details of playing. I went for a walk, and only at that point did I see how high we were, looking out over Pittsburgh. It was beautiful through the smog. When I returned to the bar, I saw in the proscenium before the stage aside your horn cases that a single conga drum and drummer's stool had appeared. You saw me notice the drum and gave me this salute from behind the mic in the spotlight on stage, and you laughed like there was something that we both knew that nobody else in the room realized. You pointed at me, raising your eyebrows. Later, when the first set started, I dragged the conga and the seat up next to the drum set, and every tune where a conga fit, I attracted frowns from my dad. And Cozy Cole tolerantly shook his head. You oscillated between crying out, "That's right, Brother John," and "Go ahead, send me something, send out those letters." That night, when the group played Tintindeo, I kept the beat on conga, not getting in my dad's way on the drums, but then everybody in the band nodded at me after you had finished your solo, and I held the groove on my own, thinking of what my dad had told me. The drums got to be the heartbeat. So, I just basically imitated the heartbeat on the conga drum's rim. And then, when that had worked, I started adding grace notes and rolls and runs until I had a fever pitch going, and the band came back in at your signaling them like an orchestra conductor brandishing your horn like it was a director's baton. We played the chorus again, and at the end of the song, suddenly you stepped over and picked me up off the drum seat and hugged me. The audience applauded. That's the first time in my life I have ever received applause of any kind. It was unchecked clapping. It was spontaneous. I felt really loved. So, Sonny, here's the crazy thing. It never occurred to me until now to send you a letter. I was trying to decide how to tell the story of the way I became a teacher and where I learned to be a listener and to encourage students. It all started back on the day when you sent me the message that you wanted to understand me and that I had to send messages out if I wanted you to connect. That was a great lesson for the teacher that I later learned I needed to become. You gave me a model of what teachers can do for students. You knew how to show love and understanding, especially in those awkward moments. Yes, it occurred to me today, in this sad epiphany, that I never thought of writing you a letter through all those years after that night, at that small bar with its diminutive stage amid the lively audience in the neighborhood and people in Pittsburgh called The Hill. You didn't tell me I understand you, but you showed me understanding, and then you gave me the human essence of the listening lesson in a jazz rendition, Tintindeo, where everyone has a voice. Since that time, I've been trying to find ways of telling you, Te entiendo, I understand you. Of course, I continue to have moments of terrifying doubt about myself, but what I tried to learn was to show people unreserved love, to send messages out to other players, and to listen for what they'd send me back, and to value that sharing as precious to who I have wanted to be as a person. Sonny Stitt, I have you to thank. Tintindeo, John. Thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.